The people are retarded.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Revolution broadcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Julie G, here in studio with my husband,
Adam.
Yeah, that's right. So today we are going to be doing just a little flowcast. We are in the midst of doing a series called System Error. So this is not that. This is just a little 2.0, a little 2.5, whatever. It's just a little blip, a
little in between episode System Error 2 and 3.
Yeah, and so we're just going to kind of talk about a couple things because
the next episode we need to plan a little bit more in depth because we're going to be going over the structure of the New World Order and the existence of it.
What is this really all a bloody about?
Oh, we're going to find out.
Exactly.
In the next episode.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, we're just kind of going to flow into just a little bit of this and a little bit of that in this episode because it's been an interesting week. It is the week after Passover, aka it is the festival of unleavened bread for those who are observing that. We are aware of the fact that that's what's happening right now, but we've definitely been eating leaven. We definitely had pizza last night. And it's a little bit more of a personal type celebration in the sense that the idea is that the leaven is not so much about the bread component.
It's not a sin to eat leaven.
No, but the Festival of Unleavened Bread is actually a time for you and me and the body of Christ in general to be searching our hearts, searching our lives for that leaven. And the leaven is actually a representation of sin in our lives. And so the idea, is that you would remove all the leaven from your house. And so that you would also then, on the other hand of that, right, is you be removing whatever kind of sin you've been kind of maybe
harboring in your heart.
Yeah, entrenched in for a little while. You take that time to get into that repentant state. But the interesting thing about the Festival of Unleavened Bread, what I think is really beautiful, is that you do your first sweep, or a second sweep, you clean out everything from your house and your heart, right? But then during the course of that week, things come up. During the course of that week, you happen to find out that in your apocalypse storage area that you've got a bunch of loaves of sourdough. And it's the same thing, right? In the course of a week, it's like things come up. God shows you okay, well, what about this little area, right? This little thing in your heart that you've been keeping back from me. Why not give that to me now? Because, hey, I shone the light on it. So I'm here. I'm with you. I want to walk with you through it. Give it to me now. Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing about the Festival of Unleavened Bread. They're for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So it's been happening because Passover was last weekend, the great celebration of our Lord and King, his sacrifice and his resurrection. And so just kind of dropping that because today, according to the Gregorian calendar, is Good Friday. And for those of you who know us, you know that we've been tracking along with the lunar calendar. We've been disassociating ourselves from Matrix Babylon for a very long time. And so this is the second consistent year for us that we are completely so far removed from Easter celebrations and Good Friday and everything. And so I'll just tell a quick little story about last time. So last year, we went down to Toronto to see a DJ group called Worship. And it's actually very interesting. We could even talk about this, Adam, in this flowcast. We went and we saw these DJs. There's 3 guys. So producers, Sub Focus, I don't even know who else.
Culture Shock,
somebody else. So it's 3 of them. They got a pretty cool logo. It's the Praying Hands. They're called Worship. It's in this amazing venue called History in Toronto, downtown, state-of-the-art facility. This place is great. You go there and you feel wow, this is what a night out.
It's a new level of service that
we
didn't have when we were going out to venues in the 90s and the 2000s.
No, or even last week going out to some just regular old dingy club here. Not that we went out last week, but I'm just saying this is the standard. It is beautiful. Like you walk in and the dudes who are doing the security, they are wearing suits and they just walk you through like the little security beep beep
And
thing.
they're like very nice.
Yeah, they're like, welcome, you know, and a lot of times you go to these venues, they're like, empty out your bag, let me see everything, let me pat you down. And they just treat you like you're a terrorist.
Yeah, like they're bringing you into a jail or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and you're like, yo, like I literally paid $50 to be here. I'm about to like enjoy myself supporting these artists. Like, why am I being treated like this? Anyways, it didn't happen there. It was a really amazing thing. And then like the venue itself, just had like perfect lights, perfect sound everywhere. There's like areas where you can sit, like no matter where you were, you could see the stage. No matter where you were, there was space to dance. But the cool thing is we went up on like the mezzanine level that had like seats or whatever. And the event wasn't like a ticketed event where you had to like pay for a seat or pay for the floor. It was just kind of like a free for all. So we found a cool spot up in the mezzanine, like with some seats. And the waitress comes over, asks us what we want. She's so nice. They've got pizza for sale at the bar. And I was like, this is everything to me, because when I'm out and I'm dancing, like I'm out dancing, I'm getting hungry and I want to be able to eat something like in the middle of the event, you know?
And like the most important and amazing thing is free water. There's free
yes.
water stations everywhere. Back in the day, you go to a club or a rave or something and they're turning off the cold water in the bathroom and running hot water. So you're forced to go buy inflated water bottles at like $5-6 a pop. Like
Yeah.
it was evil, and people were dying because they were on like all these hard drugs and they're dehydrated and couldn't get water. Like
Yeah.
it was evil.
You know what else they were doing too is that you would buy the water bottle, they would take the cap off and they would keep the cap
Yeah, so you couldn't just keep it like all night
and like fill it up in the tap or whatever. Like anyways, that's just totally nuts. Anyways, the crazy thing is that these this club history is actually the brainchild of Drake, who is a Canadian here, but he's also part of the Illuminati New World Order. Anyways, they got one good thing going. I am appreciative of this. And the cool thing is, too, is that there is a history nightclub coming to Ottawa in 2026. So that'll be really great for music lovers here in the local area, as well as folks from Montreal, because no one's going to have to drive to Toronto anymore. Like, we can just drive 30 minutes to downtown, see an amazing show in a beautiful venue, and then go home and sleep in our own beds that night, wake up, cuddle with the cats, live our best life. Right?
Right. Amen.
So-
what was the story again with this worship band?
So
it
my-
wasn't worship. It was pretty much blasphemy and a bunch of hypocrisy is what it was.
And why was it hypocrisy, Adam? Tell them. Tell the listeners what they did.
Well, I couldn't figure out why there's no energy in the place. I'm like, well, these guys are the top level DJs, and I didn't like their vibe. I didn't like the way they looked, and you know what? Their set was
Judging.
like-
Adam was judging them.
I was judging them, and I still judged them. And
Now I judge them for sure because of what they did.
yeah, basically, like even other people that were leaving the venue were like, the party wasn't even that good and everything. Why? Well, because they weren't even playing live.
They
It was a
weren't playing.
pre-recorded set. One of our friends was booked to open, and they said that they were demanding pre-recorded sets for everything, and he backed out. He says, "No way, this is not legitimate," and he didn't play there.
Yeah, shout out to James Brown, our friend who only plays live
Live
music.
sets.
He is, oh my gosh. And just one quick story about James Brown, core memory that I have. Okay, well, I have two, but we're not going to talk about the one that I know you think we're talking about. Okay, so this...
CD throwing one is the one you're going to tell.
Yes, the CD throwing one. Okay, so there used to be like a regular Sunday night drum and bass night that James Brown used to host. It was at like this tiny little club on Queen Street. I forget even the name of it now.
College Street, I think it was. College Street Bar, wasn't it?
Maybe it was a College Street bar. I'm not entirely sure. All I know is that this one night, this is back in the day when people were playing with CDJs. So it was after the days of people doing turntables, but this was the day that you had to actually physically put a CD into the CD player to play the track or whatever. So James Brown, like the vibe was hype. People are up on tables, up on like we were just like in the jungle, baby, up on top of everything. Everybody's rinsing, everybody's dancing. Vibe is so high. James Brown is just like going fast, track after track after track. He's putting the CDs into the player, popping them out, just throwing them into the crowd. Like it was one of the most amazing nights. Because James Brown, he just brings the energy. He brings energy, and I love that guy. And mad respect to him for backing out of a huge gig where he was probably not going to get paid $100. He was going to get paid a nice chunk. And he said, no, that is a true junglist soldier. James Brown, if you're listening to this, we love you and respect you. Peace, love, unity, respect, bruh, forever. So anyways, with that being said, we went to that party and we were staying overnight at Adam's sister's place. And we wake up on the Friday and Laura's like, hey, what are you guys doing today? We're like, oh, we're going to go vintage shopping, this and that. Da, da, da. She's like, but nothing's open. And we're like, why? She's like, because it's Good Friday. And we're like, well, I was like, we did it, Adam. We did it. We completely deprogrammed ourselves. We had no idea what day it was. We had removed ourselves successfully from Christmas. And now we have successfully removed ourselves from Easter. Woo! It felt good, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it feels good even this year. Just going through the Passover celebration. And we had an amazing time. Just had some beautiful new believers that came into our lives and just all came together and enjoyed an amazing dinner together.
We did like a bit of an adaptation of a traditional Seder.
Seder plate?
Yeah, Seder plate, cedar plate, whatever you want to call it. We adapted it and made it relevant for today because that is one of the things that I keep talking about is that today, you know, we're living in a post-resurrection era. So we're living in the time where Jesus Christ died and has been resurrected, and now he's seated on the throne. I believe, personally, that Jesus is still ruling and reigning. I believe that the millennial reign has already happened. He's done that thing, but that means that his kingdom is firmly established, and it is set up, and it is not going anywhere. And so that leads me to want to bring up one little thing. I know it's not necessarily on our couple points we wanted to touch on, which we'll get to, but because it is a flowcast, we're just flowing. I just wanted to talk about the fact that, like, I guess there's like an election coming up here in Canada. And so the interesting thing about that is...
Why is there an election coming up anyways? Don't we have a new Carney prime minister?
Apparently, yeah.
I don't even know what's up with all that. All I know is this guy's also bad news.
Isn't he like a banker or something?
Yeah, they're all bad news. Like, there's no choice.
Yeah, so that's my point. So if you're a believer and you believe that Jesus is king, and you're listening to this, and you're asking yourself, or you're questioning whether or not you should vote, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm saying this with a lot of confidence, you should not be voting. You should not be participating in that Babylonian system, this matrix system. If you believe that Christ is king, it is time to really shift and pivot your entire life to live as if he is king. That means he is the one who has jurisdiction over all things. He is the king. He is the one who sets the tone, who sets the guidelines by which we live by. Okay? And so it's not even worth your energy to go through the ritual of voting. And
that shows you believe in the system. That
exactly.
Something might change and these people are in control of your life and everything around. All these ridiculous rules that they put over absolutely every aspect of society. You're just like agreeing to that and saying that's you participating in the contract.
Yes.
And like we were going to talk a little bit about sovereignty. So like I'm just going to flow into a little section of that. Like,
but wait, the one last thing I want to say about it.
Okay.
Is what our he's not even a friend. I don't even know him. But Osho, he talked. It's on the internet. You can watch it anytime.
You just want to hit that sample, don't you?
I do. He talked about though, but I thought it was so interesting because I was wondering where this sample even come from. Like, in what context was he saying this fancy, funny thing? It was in the sense of he was being questioned about government and about democracy and about voting, and he said it's actually ridiculous that we as human beings participate in this system of democracy where we're like voting and all of this stuff, because at the end of the day,
the people are retarded.
And you know what? I mean, I don't think that I'm retarded.
We don't disagree. Osho.
But I truly think that, like, in order to take our power back on so many levels, like mentally, physically, spiritually, all these things, we have to come out from Babylon, come out from her, my people, lest you share in her plagues. really important that we pivot and that we fully submit and surrender to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. It's such a powerful, powerful thing to do, to reclaim your sovereignty under the sovereign King. Like it's deeply meaningful, it's deeply powerful, and as any true believer walking the line and following Jesus, I truly believe that this is an essential component to living that victorious life, to living a life of freedom in the Spirit. All these things, it's essential to come out from under the system. You have to come out of the matrix, and it takes a little bit of work, but it is so worth it. And so, just speaking to a little bit of work and speaking to sovereignty and freedom, let's go with what we're gonna talk about.
Well, we did have a couple points to talk about sovereignty, but now I just had, since Julie was talking about the millennial reign and Jesus ruling, being the king, if that is true, which we believe, this whole sovereignty thing is very important that we recognize what the truth is, because if we believe that these people were elected by the people for the people, and if you actually think that they're sitting around these boardrooms being like, how can we just make the Canadians' lives better? Like, that's not what they're doing.
I wish.
They're absolutely not for the people. They're about controlling the people
for Satan.
For Satan and for the rich and powerful and the corporations to take advantage of us. In every aspect of society, this is what you see if you dig deep.
Yeah.
So, if Christ has ruled and reigned, I believe, basically, that common law is the foundation of everything, that all the law is built in. This is fact, that even the law will, if you take things up right to the highest Supreme Court, they will have to rule according to common law. And I believe that Jesus established this common law, because I believe he gave everybody the freedom to choose during the millennial reign.
I think so too. I absolutely don't think that just because he was ruling and reigning that like our free will and like the way God created humanity to function ever changed.
I think it was the most free humanity has ever been. The only rules that you had to live by was common law, which is basically don't murder, don't hurt anybody, don't steal anything, respect other people's property, and act honorably in all your interactions.
Which are basically just like kind of expanding on the two greatest commandments, which is love God and then love your neighbor as yourself, right? Because if we're loving our neighbors, we're not murdering them, we're not stealing their stuff, we're not banging their spouses, right?
Right. So I believe that this is what Jesus Christ during his millennial reign established. And when you got, I think it was like King Henry or somebody that...
Henry, did you hear your name, sweetie? Sorry, Adam.
That's our cat, Henry. Basically, the king established that common law is the fact, and this is where we get all of our modern law from. But I think that all of history's been jumbled up, and we don't know when things happen and what the truth is, and because the 1,000-year reign was completely covered up, erased from history. But at some point, there was this king, and he was probably part of, who knows, probably the kings of the earth that were underneath Jesus. So he knew what was up, or at least his descendants, and he reestablished this, and this is what the foundation of everything is. So all these billions of rules that the governments have today, they're just a contract.
Yes.
And we've gone over this before in some of the other podcasts. We did a sovereignty podcast previously. I recommend, if you want to know more about that you go listen to that one. But essentially, all these governments, they get you into a contract right from birth, from your birth certificate. It says Canadian banknote at the bottom, and you start signing things and everything, and it's just assumed that now they're in control of your life and you have to do everything they say. How is that freedom?
It's not.
It's not freedom. And they don't tell you that it's a choice. It's a choice. It's like, to be free is a simple, we don't need a violent revolution. It's a simple no thank you. And that's what people need to realize if they understand their sovereignty.
No,
and
you can't be understanding. You got to comprehend.
Well,
you got to understand.
Understand, comprehend, but also I could understand the truth because I could stand under that. right?
Yeah, well, only if it is the truth, right? Like,
Yes.
and that's why I'm talking about, like,
But
how
I,
it's,
I don't understand their contracts.
No, heck
and
no.
So I comprehend them in that they're deceptive and that they're basically fraud, because the basic common law has established the basics of contract, because that's basically what humans do when they start interacting, doing business, doing anything. There's always some sort of contract, whether you're agreeing to marry somebody or whether you're agreeing to purchase a house or loan some money. There's an exchange and there's an agreement. There's witnesses. It's like a basic thing, even from the Bible times, that they would hand a shoe, a left shoe or something like that, to establish a contract in the witness of like 3 people. And so this is, humanity's been doing this in its entire existence, and this is well established that contract law is a law. What you agreed to is now you're bound to by common law. So the fact that there's like 3 things in a contract that you need, and one of them, I can't remember them all, but like one of them is full disclosure of everything that you're a part of. There's like the meeting of the minds, and there's something else. And if you don't have these 3 things, then it's not a real contract.
signature.
Yeah, it's called not even a signature, but they're called adhesion contracts, where you're not really bound by them. It's just like, if you want to, it's voluntary. And I believe like all the tickets that they used to issue used to say voluntary payment at the bottom. Now they just erased all that. And so they're just trying to hide this all from you as much as they can, because they don't want you to understand sovereignty. They don't want you to understand freedom.
No, they don't. You know what they want you to do? They want you to leave your car doors unlocked in Quebec so they can go around creeping on your property, open up your car door, and then give you a fine.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, how is that freedom?
No, it's totally insane. Like this. So this is something that is new to me. I just learned this. I've been living in Quebec for like 8 years.
I've heard of this before.
So
I've heard of this.
it's so wild that it's illegal, like against the quote unquote law, to leave your car door unlocked in the province of Quebec. And if your car door is found to be unlocked,
And they're going around checking.
Yeah, if
They're
your car
doing
door
sweeps.
Yes, so that's the thing. If it's found to be unlocked, they're going to give you a ticket. And so it's so interesting. Last week, I think it was, or maybe the week before. No, I think it was last week. There was like an announcement made by the local cops saying like, hey, we're doing this thing. We're going around checking everybody's car doors. And if it's unlocked, we're giving you a ticket. And I just thought that was so unhinged because it's an invasion of privacy. Like they're going onto people's private property. They're going into people's driveways and they're opening the car doors. Not only that, like, who are you to be going around opening people's car doors?
This is the government for you. It's like, I remember my one friend that told me that when the CRA decided that their parents' business, they weren't claiming enough, they came into their house and went through their fridge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and went through all their stuff and said, we think that you have too much food for what you're claiming.
That's
and
so
they had to
sickening.
remortgage their house, and they almost lost everything.
Yeah.
And they had to keep working like an extra 10, 15 years instead of retiring. That's because the CRA decided, like, you know what? You're not claiming everything. You're doing something on the side. And
Yeah. So anyways, all that to say, the long and short is get out of these contracts now by coming under the rule and the reign of the sovereign king, the Prince of Peace himself, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. He
Amen.
is...
That is another contract too. And that,
Well, yes, it is.
And that's the thing. You have the choice. We encourage people to make that choice to give their life to Christ. And that's when you hear about people that come to Jesus and then they give their heart to them. And basically you're saying like, now you're
This
in
is
control
bigger than
of
your
my
left
life.
shoe. This is kind of
Yeah.
like a big deal.
So that's like you're entering into another contract with the Creator, who's all about love and seeing the best for you, versus a system that is out to kill you, basically.
Yeah. Yep. And so he also says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Meaning like, you come into this new realm of existence with me where I'm the king, and I got it all worked out, baby. You seek me, you do the things I ask you to, I will take care of everything. You won't have to worry. You cast all of your cares, all of your worries unto me. My yoke is like, come to me, all ye who are weak and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke, for it is light. And what is associated with light? Life. So anyways, it's good. It is good. And so that is why we celebrate the Passover, because Jesus is good. His death was good, and his resurrection is even better. Right, Adam?
Amen.
So, with all that to be said, let's just quickly talk about...
Oh, wait, and one more thing about sovereignty, this one, because since we're on that tip
Sure,
now, we don't want to
keep
go back.
Keep going. This
to
is a
that.
flowcast, baby. Flow.
Yeah, so basically, I wanted to give a little update on our journey of sovereignty and, fighting the system by trying to uncontract. We have been successful when they come after us. When we're just doing our thing on our land, we haven't had any involvement with them. They came and said, oh, someone complained, you're digging too closer to water, and we're going to call this bigger, higher agency. You're going to be in a lot of trouble unless you get a permit and get the soil analysis and get all these things. And I said, okay, I can't make that decision now. It's not just me. You're going to have to leave. And then the inspector tried to walk onto the property and start taking pictures, but I said, no, you don't have permission. As soon as I said that, she got up and left immediately. And then she was on my case nonstop via email saying, we're threatening, you have 2 days, this and that. I sent letters to them. It's called proof of burden letters, basically challenging their jurisdiction, saying all these things, saying you have to prove your identity, show us your oath, all these things. Who are you to come tell us what to do? Prove that you have the authority to do this. And there's a legal process to do this with 3 letters. I've only even sent 2 of them, and that was enough. I haven't heard back from them in years now. It's been years.
It's also one of the points that you make in the proof of burden letter is prove that you have jurisdiction over a spiritual being. So again,
flesh and blood human being versus a corporate fiction.
Yeah.
Because that's where you don't. Everything is trying to get you tricked into agreeing to the contract of being this corporate fiction, this straw man that they've created.
Yeah.
So when you go to the courts, all these things is based on that. So everything from paying taxes to...
So if you stop identifying as that in every way, shape, or form and identify as what and who you truly are created to be and are, which is, yes, a flesh and blood, spirit-filled man or woman...
Yes.
That is who we are. We are not our social insurance numbers. We are not a corporate fiction. We are alive. Corporate fictions are dead. They are dead. They have no life. So anyways, all that to say, we won that thing, right?
We won that thing, and I believe it's easier to tell the system when they come after you to go away. But when you want something from the system that is probably your right to take, or it's
I believe it is.
legal...
I believe it's it's part of our inheritance.
Yeah, this is a theory that some people have had success with there being this trust fund associated with your account, and that you could use it to discharge debt, basically. So everything from mortgages, even signing a promissory note, it becomes your signature becomes actual money when you sign it and you get it notarized, and that's just as good as money according to the Bill of Exchange Acts, according to the Bank Act. This is actually legitimate. The problem is when you go to try to do that, which even when you get fines, you can send it back and say, you can say no contract and you can get out of that. But if you mess up in that, it's very difficult because they know that you have a license and that you need to renew it. And so we've sent in a few tickets in this process, and it did slow them down and confuse them. But in the end, they find some way to slip it through, and then you have to pay. Unless you just get rid of your license plate and go full freeman. But then you have the problem of the police, pulling you over, harassing you. You could get away with it, but sometimes, you go through crap. And so
is this really all a bloody bout?
And right now, I have a license. I keep it up to date and everything because I just don't want to go through that crap, right? So
I don't, because I do.
Because what I found is that they're in control of the system. When you want something from them, if you want to discharge debt and everything, they run the whole thing. So they're going to see that and be like, well, what are they really going to do? Are they going to be able to take it to the courts? Well, we own the courts too. So the judges will just rule no, and most of the time, people aren't successful in this. And that's why there's a lot of people that put a lot of effort into that, and I haven't seen a lot of success. But I know there is definitely in America and even in the UK, people who have discharged debt.
That's the thing. I followed a lot of folks who have done it, because there are a bunch of different ways in which you can do it. So that's the thing, is they make it so confusing.
Yeah.
So it's for example,
and they're always adjusting, and if someone has a win, they adjust the system and everything.
Yeah. So let's just say, even right now, you probably have a hydro bill around, and you probably have say a credit card bill. Or a cell phone bill, but probably not a cell phone bill. Nobody gets cell phone bills anymore. It's all just whatever. So you probably have those 2 bills. So what you'll notice you don't have to do this right now, but you can do this later, is that on the bottom part of a bill, which we like to refer to as a presentment, because they're presenting you with an offer, you'll notice at the bottom where it says you owe this much, if you really look at it with your eyes, you'll notice that it kind of resembles a check. And if you flip it over onto the back side, you'll notice that it has that little box that the back of checks have where a bank teller would stamp it to be deposited. Now, if you look at the bottom of probably your credit card bill, because I noticed that the hydro bills don't have this, but a credit card bill along the very bottom of that same little portion, it has a bunch of numbers, kind of like routing numbers, like a check has. And it also will always feature a number 96. So
Often.
there's a couple different ways that you can try out. And we're not going to be giving a friggin' tutorial right now or whatever. Just planting these seeds so that if you want, you can go.
It's not easy.
No, you can go onto the internet and dig around. And if you're feeling like inspired, whatever, do it. Like, we're inspired and we're doing this. Every time something comes in, we give this a shot. So there's something called the 96 fix. And so that has to do with any of your presentments that you get that have the routing number on the bottom and has a 96. There's a method you can go through. And or also on the other ones that don't have the routing numbers at the bottom, but they do look like a check and they got the stamp thing on the back, what you can do is you can do a method called accepting for value. So when you get this thing, you're looking and it says that there's a balance owing. Well, you say, okay, well, I accept this for value. Now go ahead and cash this check.
Because you sign it, and that makes it money.
Yes. Cash this check using my money that's in my trust account.
Because apparently they're double dipping. They get the utilities all get paid out of like the trust fund, and then they take money from you as well. So they're not in any danger of foreclosure.
No, they're not in any danger of foreclosure.
And ask yourself, why the utilities are so extremely expensive when really a lot of other countries, you get like a cell phone, like Mexico, Korea, South Korea, it lasts forever. And it's like $3 or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're completely ripping us off big time here. Like these utilities all should be almost free, if not free, through our taxes. This is how the system is so mismanaged that we're just made to pay every step of the way maximum price, and they say that they're here serving us. No, you're not.
Yeah, and then the third way is called just ignore it. I'm not a proponent of the ignore it one, although like some parts of me were kind of thinking like if I was to go back to the beginning of my journey here.
They always demand a response though, because silence is acquiescence, right?
Yeah, silence is acquiescence. However, like there was this cool chick I met at Sonic Springs last year. Her name was Bonnie. She had a bunch of chickens, and the government showed up or sent some, thugs to her place and threatened, they're like, you need to kill all these chickens or else, And this was, I don't know, I guess they were trying to get us with the bird flu or whatever, the avian flu back then. That was just a year ago or whatever. And she refused. She's like, heck no, I'm not killing my chickens. Like, number one, I love them. Number two, they're a source of income and food. Like So anyway, she refused to do it. And what ended up is she was jailed. I'm going to reach out to Bonnie and get her to come on the podcast. Actually,
not even just jailed. They had a whole, they had people following their, investigation for, a month, and spies, guys in the bushes with binoculars,
yeah,
all
it was
this
really over
crap,
the top.
tailing their children to school and then SWAT teamed them.
Kind of like an insane use of taxpayer money, if you ask me. But anyways, all that to say, I'm going to reach out to her and get her to come onto the podcast and share her story because it's fascinating. It's fascinating just to hear about the system, at work doing these nasty things to people. But she has a friend who 100% her way is just like, nah, man, I live above the line. I am outside of that. It can't touch me. The system, I am not a part of it. And so she just ignores everything, any bill, whatever. She just burns them in the fire. Just you know what I mean? She ignores it completely.
Does the services keep continuing?
Yes. So she's been living in a dreamland, perfectly fine, nothing. So that really resonated with me because part of me.
That's rare.
Yeah, because
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I know. So part of me is just truly, truly, truly where the mind goes, the man follows. And so I believe, that we are a vibration and a frequency. Like it's scientifically proven we're a bunch of molecules vibrating, you know what I mean, at the highest level of whatever. And so at the end of the day, whatever we set our mind on is how we are going to be vibing in this world. And that also plays into like what kind of things end up coming our way. And I know a lot of this might sound a little bit woo-woo or whatever, but it's not. It's pretty basic stuff that most people kind of agree on at this point. So yeah, just ignoring it and pretending that, and not even pretend, just believing it is not a part of your reality. And so if I could go back to the beginning, that's probably what I would do. But now I'm kind of all woven in different ways. But we'll see. It's an ongoing process. Everything is a journey. And so we've been doing 2 different methods for discharging our debt, getting rid of our hydro or whatever. And so far, it hasn't been super successful, but this is where the other, so we've had 2 successes. Number 1 with the land, and number 2, I had a cell phone. I think it might be Virgin Mobile or Videotron. One of the 2, or both.
Virgin.
Okay, yeah, so Virgin Mobile. And I didn't pay it, whatever. And it ended up going to collections. And so now this is when the whole contract stuff really, again, works. Because like Adam said, it's now all of a sudden they're coming after you. So that's a good spot where you can hold your position and say, heck no contract.
Collection agencies hold no power.
0 power at all, right? So they came at me with the letters being like, you owe us money now because we bought your debt from Virgin Mobile. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I sent them through the 3 letters saying like proof of burden, whatever, but like I don't have a contract with you. So you literally have no grounds or whatever to be harassing me and trying to get money. And I think on the last letter, I was like, if you contact me one more time, I'm going to charge you. And so anyways, that went away. And I use an app called Credit Karma, which I am using just because I'm trying to do some things with my credit or whatever. Long story, can get to it later. And so that did not affect my credit. It's like everything that you do, like in regards to like defaulting payments, like it's all kind of shows up on it's all what feeds into your credit score, and it all shows up. So if anybody like TransUnion or whatever wants to do a scan, people are doing a credit check, all this stuff comes up. So the cool thing about Credit Karma is you have access to seeing all that stuff.
And if something does go on your credit score like that, you could write the credit agencies and demand through letters saying, show me an evidence of a contract. If not, take this off my credit score.
Yeah, and so anyways, my point is that I didn't get dinged with the credit score, and it's been a year now, so it's over and done with. I got it. I did it. I had success. So that's why, even though some of these things are a little bit more difficult, we don't give up. We keep on keeping on, because the only way to truly have the victory is to keep fighting the good fight. And the only way to also learn is by doing these things. So it's been fun. And
if this identifies with anybody and you want to get in touch and help, it's going to take a lot of people to figure out some of these things, especially getting stuff from the system. That'd be great. Then we could all benefit. But, we need to do things by trial and error.
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of effort. But if we have like 100 people doing the same thing, we're going to figure it out a lot quicker.
Yeah, we'll figure it out a lot quicker, and then we'll all be like using promissory notes to buy land and starting a complete micronation all of its own.
Amen.
Yeah. So with that being said, I wanted to just kind of circle back real quick to that episode we did where we were talking about 9/11, and I kind of was mentioning something about something, and you were like, no, that's not right, but like, what? Yeah, and you may have heard the audio just it wasn't consistent because we had to delete a whole section where we just had a big disagreement. Where we could not agree to disagree because, like, facts. I knew what I knew, and guess what? Well, it appears that you were right, but into my defense, that this is not something that's commonly accepted. So not everybody believes this about 9/11 because there's very little evidence for it. Versus, well, there is and there isn't. It's not accepted within all Adam.
Don't
groups.
Don't
even try to downplay this. Basically,
Julie said that the images in the footage of the planes hitting the towers were CGI. It's all CGI, and I'm like, no, it's something hit the towers. There's smoke coming out and everything, and then so we stopped, and then I looked it up later, and lo and behold, there is something up with the planes. Like, I don't think a commercial, and I heard this before, that it may have been a drone or something, but definitely the images that we have, people were, and it's hard to find this stuff online. Like, it's not like before where you could just type it into Google. It's like I went through every Google result and I couldn't get an answer. I had to go on to BitChute, and I found one video of a guy who was analyzing it, saying, yeah, look at, these planes, like, it's CGI, it's not real. You can take it frame by frame, and you see the plane going into the building, and it literally disappears. There's no plane, and there's like no damage to the building. That's like impossible.
Yeah, and it like never comes out the other side. There's so many things. It's actually really fun to.
You take it frame by frame,
watch.
it's impossible, and it's obviously been manipulated somehow. So the
Well, all that to
explosion
say-
could have been bombs, could have been a missile. We just don't know what it was, but we know that. There's probably no commercial airliner that flew into the building. It could have been an unmanned drone plane. It could have been a missile. Could have been just been bombs and all CGI. But
So anyways, like, long story short, Adam, thank you, is that I was right. And we just wanted to say that on record.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy that I was right, or it's crazy that...
It's crazy that, like, they just go to all this level to cover this up. And now, like, 20 years later... on the internet, they've scrubbed like everything, like these websites
But what
that we
about
used
the
to go to.
Wayback
Like,
Machine? Did you use the Wayback Machine?
you know what I use is ChatGPT. It knows where everything is, even has data from websites that aren't even there anymore, and so it lists everything. It just won't agree. It'll say this is not the mainstream theory. It's highly debated. Like, don't believe it. Blah blah blah. But here's what people are saying, and so you could get the information from ChatGPT, and then. There's a lot of, that's probably the best way to find things now, I would say. Is it even told me that there's 300 licensed professionals, architects and engineers that have come together and formed this group, saying that this official story is BS and there's no way that the airliners could have brought down these buildings. Like, these are professionals. And you see this, like, this ridiculousness of things that they pull off. Like, 9/11 was a ridiculous lie, and it's very, very obvious. And now it's 20 years, and, people have forgotten about that. It is what it is now. There's conspiracy theories, there's this and that, there's official story. It doesn't matter anymore because it's 20 years ago. Well, now what are we going to do after 2020 to 2024? Those crazy things that happen, all lies. Again, tons of professionals. Like, you don't even know that there's groups, worldwide groups of, like, thousands of doctors, like professional doctors, basically trying to expose this and saying how wrong and bad it was. Like, it's just extremely obvious again, and now it's just like 5 years later, society's just forgetting, moving on, like nothing's happened. Well, you're going to see real soon that, things are going to continue to happen. If you're not identifying who's actually doing it, you're just going to keep falling for the lies.
Yeah, it's like really important to kind of like obviously not be super steeped in all of these things. Like, you heard me talk a billion times. Ignorance is bliss. But at the same time, you have to at least have done and gained an awareness of, like, the reality of the world that we're living in and what's really going on. Because then from there, even if you're living like a blissful, ignorant life, you can make the right decision when it comes down to, like, critical decision making time, So with that being said, Adam, I do kind of remember just this when we were kind of chatting a little bit earlier that you wanted to touch on AI and ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, I did want to do that.
Yeah, so
what is it I wanted to touch on again?
Well, the fact that it's completely integrated into...
How it's taking over everything?
Well,
and
that, yeah.
And the fact that, like, it is a very useful tool on a certain degree. Like, we use it to, it's like, okay, well, we need to write this cover letter, write this report. Like, it's very useful for business when instead of hiring, it could replace, like 2 or 3 employees. That
Or it can replace more than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it just does so much, even for society. I guarantee that you're not going to need doctors soon. You're not going to need lawyers because the AI is going to, it's all of humanity's combined information put through algorithms and self-writing algorithms that will think processes and come out with the right answer.
But the thing is, too, about the right answer, Adam, that you were mentioning, and maybe you can speak on it once I kind of prompt you with this, is that the reality of ChatGPT is that it was not really made for you and me. It was actually made by the deep state, by these governments, and those are people, right? So it has been programmed in a specific way at the end of the day.
Like, it does do certain things. Like, you could get truths out of it and that they don't want you to hear, but the fact that, like, it's been coded to even from everything that's gone onto the web, there are like 25 years of disinformation they put on there that comes out through ChatGPT. That's why it's always telling you that, you know, all these things are lies and conspiracy theories, and like not to listen to it, and but here's what the answer is. But if you ask it in a different way, you know, it'll give you a different answer. So it's definitely written with a bias from the beginning, you know, and
because it is still trying, like, at the end of the day, it's something that we, you know, what do they call, like, the people, but you know how people will have a word for just like the useless eaters or whatever, however the elites kind of view us as human beings, what we are. They've given us this, right? But still, this thing, ChatGPT, as much as, yes, it can be useful or whatever, and like what Adam was saying, like, it has all the information on it, and you can kind of use it like the Wayback Machine. If you don't even know what the Wayback Machine is, like, ChatGPT is still going to have access to all the information that the Wayback Machine has.
It's a scary, incredible thing.
But at the same time, this thing is still programmed to still steer the cattle in a certain direction.
Absolutely.
It is going to toe the line. It is going to hold the narrative that it wants humanity to have.
It's going to become humanity's god. People aren't going to be, and that's the thing. We could use it to write business reports and things like that, but like people are asking it relationship advice, like things you need to like ask your soul and ask God. And like this is the scary thing. Like humanity like has fallen for social media, fallen for the phone and the devices. Like this is a very dangerous thing that we're
Adam, it's
being
so
involved
creepy.
in.
It's like the next evolutionary step of like deepening our relationship with the beast system.
Absolutely.
Like the fact truth I think that people forget is that this is called artificial intelligence. Like it's not real. You know what I mean? You're not.
It's a combined human intelligence that we put into this mathematical equation.
And everything you give to it, you know, even like on a spiritual and an energetic level. That's why for me personally, I use it mostly for my work stuff.
Tasks.
Yeah.
I'm very careful of what I put into it because I know that Microsoft is handling all the infrastructure and data.
But not only that.
What are they doing with that? Obviously, they're taking that data and they're training their even greater AI that they've been consulting to run the world for 50 years. It's like they always have the technology 20 to 50 years before we get it, and then they utilize it, and then they release it with specific conditions upon the public. And so they're using it to gather all the information of what's in our minds and how we're interacting with it and everything, and feeding their mega AI, mother AI.
Big brother AI. Yeah. So that's what I personally, again, I'm going to make a bold statement here. I'm going to say it for all the listeners. Is if you're talking to AI in a relational way, like if you're saying please, if you're saying thank you, if you're interacting with it in a way that you would talk to a human being, you should stop. You should stop that right now.
I'm just very short with them, like, give me this, give me that now.
Me too. Know? I use this thing as a task bitch robot. Oh, I said but not. That's what I use it for. It is my little friggin' robot, and I tell it what to do, and I don't say please, and I don't say thank you. And when it tries to engage with me, like it's this robot too. He tries to talk to me all like with slang, like, what girl, how you doing? Like, no. Doesn't matter how you try to speak to me. I am not speaking to you. Do this, do that. That's it. Done. Right?
Right. Absolutely.
I just love having this podcast with you. It's so much fun.
Why? Why is that?
Okay. So just for all the listeners out there, I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes Adam...
I'm staring at the screen trying to like think of... I can't listen and then think about what I'm going to say sometimes. So sometimes there's a pause and a disconnect.
So the idea with this one, babe, is that this is a flowcast where we're not looking at the screen, where we're just vibing.
Sure, I'm getting better. You'll notice sometimes I go in a robotic mode and I'm reading off some things, but that's okay because I'm getting better. I'm not a professional speaker, as you know. Like I'm not as eloquent as Julie G here.
Yeah, so drop a comment if you're listening to this. Drop a comment. Let us know how Adam's doing. Give him a rating.
I don't want to know. I'm just going by faith. I don't take criticism lightly.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't take criticism lightly, nor does he take losing lightly. So playing games and living life without
Let me believe I'm winning here on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So with that being said, we all need to be mindful of how we're utilizing ChatGPT. And the last time we used ChatGPT actually was the other day when I was watching a quick YouTube video, but it was taking too long to get to the point. So Adam's like, you know what? And he just typed into the ChatGPT, give me the top 20, give me the 25 points that were outlined in the letter that Todd White's ministry team wrote about him, because that's the video I was watching, and it was taking way too long for the guy to get to the point to read the thing, because every time he would read a point and then he would like elaborate and and sometimes
We just wanted to know what Todd White did. That's all.
Yeah, we just want to know, because we're not
What did he do?
we're not unaware of the fact that that Lucifer, that Satan, the serpent, has his seethy little serpenty ways everywhere, and that the church isn't apart from that.
And they're fully been infiltrated Christianity.
And so, yeah, there was this guy named Todd White that we heard about him a long time ago. We never really got into Todd White.
I didn't really identify with his message, but he seemed cool. He had dreads, came from like a drug-addicted background, like those
Hippie, surfer.
perfect testimonies. Now radical for God. He's in the youth love him, speaking engagements called lifestyle Christianity. Just seemed like a cool guy,
Yeah, he did. He seemed like a cool guy, but like we kind of found out about him during a time in our lives where we were already like on this path of like friggin' uncovering every seedy thing that was happening in the church. And so we're just like, whatever, I don't care who's what, when, where, why, or how, like it's the Bible or nothing for us. You know what I mean? So like right on, he's doing a cool thing, but like I don't care what he has to say. I'm not learning from him.
Yeah, I didn't identify. I listened to a couple sermons. I'm like, this seems like the typical things that I typically hear from Christianity, and like, I wasn't being particularly edified. And although he did a lot of good and inspired a lot of people, he would go out on the streets and pray for people and maybe see healings. I question those, but it was he was at least spreading the gospel. So like that's what Paul says. Like even people doing it not legitimately, at least just spreading it.
Yep. Amen up to that for sure. But at the end of the day, what kind of happened here with Todd White? We're not going to get into it because we're not about that, and there's already enough videos out there of people breaking it all down, but we kind of wanted to just maybe touch on like the root of all of this. And so it's interesting that Todd White is leading this ministry, he's doing all these things for many, many years, and then all of a sudden, like all of the closest people to him write this letter exposing him for what he really is, because they tried to talk to him directly and be like, yo, Todd, like you're doing these things, like you're... And
for once, it wasn't about sex and drugs, that was relieving. It's more about him just being a sociopath and maybe, lying about stuff.
And like maybe like beating his child, but that's pretty bad.
Yeah. And because he's making claims that like, I've never lied in 18 years. I
haven't lusted after a woman in 13 years. Like, I'm just perfect. Like basically he was painting a picture that he's come to Christ and now he's living this like absolutely pure life that is completely...
He's like a superhero Christian.
Completely free from sin. And so like that is super dangerous, number one, because it's not real. Like nobody can live like that. Like even when you're in your like highest flow state times with the Lord, like we
still gonna mess up.
Yeah, and we all know that there's highs and the lows. Like God needs to take us through those the mountains and the valleys in order to cause us to grow. Like the thing is that if you're never, troubled by anything, like you're kind of almost just locked in at a certain growth stage. You know what I mean? You're like forever, whatever. And almost like, I thought when he was saying all these things, I'm like, you're kind of elevating yourself to a Christ-like position. You know what I mean? Like Jesus is the only one I know who didn't like sin. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know how you're a human being who used to, do drugs and do bad things or whatever, that is just all completely eradicated. And now you're absolutely perfect. Like that's wild. How is that even possible? But anyways, long story short is that we see stuff like this constantly happening to leaders all the time. And so in a way, the way I kind of see it is almost like a replication of what we see happening in Hollywood in regards to how people have their platform elevated there. And so
the elevation that's a problem. It's like these people got in these positions in these ministries and they get their minions, and it's like all of a sudden they're untouchable because they're the leader of the ministry, they're the leader, the pastor of the church, and they're in this elevated position where people can't question them, and they're basically dictators. And that's the way that, you know, the Christian ministries are predominantly, and churches are set up, and it shouldn't be that way at all.
It's actually kind of culty.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing is that just before I watched this video about Todd White, I watched this CTV thing, this investigative reporter. She went in and did a big interview and a big deep dive into this cult called
Twin Flame.
The Twin Flame Universe. And so it's run by this guy named Jeff and his wife Shalita. And oh man, like I don't even know why I watched this, but it was very interesting. Adam's like, how is your life better now that you watch this? I'm like, well, my life isn't really better, but almost like immediately after I saw this thing about Todd White, and I was kind of able to see this this correlation between Todd White and the way he was acting, and a lot of the things he was doing to the people who were following him were a lot similar to what this guy Jeff and Shalita were doing to their followers, and and it's culty. It's like taking this power and completely abusing it, and then abusing the people around you. And so, like, for Christians, this is especially terrifying because you're breaking the most important commandments, which is love your neighbor. And if you're like creating harm, and you're basically using these people around you as stepping stones, and at the same time just you're like crushing their backs, like you're not loving them, you're hindering them. And also it says in the Bible, like, woe to those who cause believers to stumble. And so that's a really scary situation for leaders to be in. And so something that is interesting is there's this man named Carl Lentz, and you might have heard about him. He was kind of a very big pastor, preacher with a big church, and Justin Bieber was going to his church for a while, that. And he had a very public downfall. He was cheating on his wife with this woman who, I don't know, she was like some exotic woman or whatever. He was cheating on his wife with this lady. And anyways, all of this came out into the open, and his fall was very public, and it was wild.
Yeah, didn't he like leave his laptop open in a ministry meeting and someone walked over and saw it? You know?
Like a lot of bad stuff. Anyways,
crazy.
But the beautiful thing is that in the past year, you can go online and you can see a lot of videos now of Carl and his wife, and they are still married. They walked through this together with God. The man repented. Like, he repented, and he and his wife are walking together, and they are doing life together, and they're doing all that they can to restore their marriage and restore not even necessarily his ministry, because he's talked pretty openly about not really wanting to get back into that, because I mean that would be kind of like a
Jimmy Swaggart.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be, but anyways, it would be probably difficult. But anyways, it's really cool to see somebody take accountability for their action, you know? And I think that that's really beautiful, because that's not easy to be that high up, to be elevated like that, to cheat on your wife, which is like, whoa, man, that's
the worst thing, breaking the worst commitment. Like,
yeah, it's wild. And then owning up to it publicly, and trying to do right by it. And I fully respect that, and I bless those two on their walk and in their marriage and on their journey. And I'm thankful for everything that the body can learn through their transparency and through a bunch of these podcasts and interviews that they're doing, just talking completely openly about it, not hiding anything. Like, this was real, and I'm not going to pretend I didn't do it, you know? And so I'm hoping and praying that somebody too, like Todd White, that can be the case for him as well. Because the thing is that God is good. He's gracious, and he's loving, and he's kind, and he loved Carl Lentz, and he loves Todd White. And the thing is that when things like this come to the surface, you know, the stuff that's done in the dark is brought to the light. It's an opportunity for life to take hold, right? it's like that little bit of leaven now is becoming an obvious part that needs to be addressed, and there's opportunity for God to help, for God to heal, and for God to make whole again. And so, yeah, it's scary and it's crazy, but I think that things like this are ultimately for the greatest good for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way God gets a hold of us sometimes, brings us down to the miry dirt and clay and raises us up. Mm-hmm. So, wow, we do an hour just flew by. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
That's crazy. Well, thank you all for listening. And when we're back, we're going to be going over the reality of the New World Order, just going over its existence, its structure, and its plan, and why you need to pay attention because, this is a big deal. I'm going to be talking about just the very basics, that these things are absolute facts. Many books, testimonies, whistleblowers confirm this, and it's a reality we need to identify because this is, who is ultimately behind controlling society, our governments, and all these crazy things that are happening. So we thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
The people are retarded. The people are retarded. The people are retarded.